Awesome. So Pat was able to right after the primaries, Pat was jumped in with both feet to support the president. And today she's having some struggles, but even as she does that, she helps out with the data entry. So Pat, do you want to say a couple words about why the president's important to you, about why the healthcare situation is important to you, etc.?
Yeah, back in Thanksgiving, I had a seizure and I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So right now I'm battling brain cancer. But I still am not going to give up on all of this. So the best I can do is I come to meetings. But anyway, the one thing that is pleasing to me on the healthcare thing, and I don't know that much about it, is that my Medicare is still taking care of me. I didn't lose any Medicare or whatever. They life flighted me and everything, so I haven't had any problems with getting Medicare coverage. So that was because unless you all have experienced it, the copay for chemo is outrageous. My first one was $2,700 copay for the first round. So something has to be done about this. I know there's people that maybe not quite as fortunate as I was that just can't come up with that kind of copay. But anyway, I found out, I was determined to find out somehow cheaper. So I called I'm under the Federal Blue Cross, so I called them and I said, look, Walgreens, this is what they're charging me for this copay. And I understand CVS is less. And they said, well, we're not contracted with CVS yet. I said, well, go ahead and contract with me. So they did, and it's more than 75% less. Isn't that, that's just absolutely insane to me. But anyway, and then another thing on the healthcare thing is my two granddaughters in Texas are covered under their, my daughter's insurance, and one of them had two pre-existing conditions. She was ADHD, and also she suffered from mono a lot, so I know she wouldn't have got insurance otherwise. So those two major things are very important to me. So, but I really want to get into all the other little pieces of the healthcare, because I know there's other pieces there I don't know anything about, and a lot of people don't know anything about.
Thanks, Mary. So several of us went to a rally yesterday at Carnegie Mellon where the president spoke. So I was fortunate enough to get a few special tickets that allowed me and Wolfer and Bassi joined us late.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you yesterday. And Bassi does some social media, as well as being a committed progressive Democrat. Is one of his specialties is advertising and social media. So he has a huge camera that so he came up front to get some pictures. So so the president's speech was great. After the president's speech, he was walking by and walking the front row line, and the first thing that the staff member came by before the president came by and said, "No autographs today. It's too hot. Put your pens away, and I'm sorry." And so the president came by. I got to shake his hand, which is cool. So that was exciting. Yeah, did I wash it? but my father-in-law asked me the same question, did I wash it? But he's a Republican, so. So the president came by, and I had been to a couple rallies before, so I knew how these work. So people were crushing, obviously, to see the president. So I found an opening where he hadn't gotten to yet, because I knew where he was going to exit. So I ran to where he was going to exit, and so I got first in line. And by then he was signing autographs. So the president came by, and I had something prepared. So this is a picture of me and my daughter Emily. And so I gave it to the president, and he took it and he pointed to Emily and he said, "Oh, what's her name? What's her name?" And President Obama said, Emily. So he took time. He wrote to Emily, "God bless," and he signed it. So that was cool. And then I had a second piece and I wrote on it, one of our committed volunteers, Pat, who's battling cancer. So, so I gave him the second piece, and at first he didn't know it was noisy, so he couldn't hear me say Pat. So he thought it was a note that I was giving him or something for him to keep. So he said, "Oh, for me," and he started back away. I'm like, "No, sign it. It's for Pat." and so he was momentarily confused, and then he signed it. So so I got to do that. So next I wanted to introduce Jeevan. If you can give us just a quick hello and a quick update on the campaign.
Sure. So I'm Jeevan. I grew up in Indiana. Graduated from IHS in 2010, and I'm going to college in Maine. And I just got back from Brazil, where I was working with a couple different projects and attending a couple conferences, and dived right into this. Yesterday, we were down at the rally, and that was a really great experience. But as far as why I came and decided to be a fellow, I've been volunteering on campaigns since I was 12, since 2004. The CARE campaign was my first campaign. I think that's where I met some of the people in this room. And it's just been a great experience for all of those working on the local campaigns from DA and school board up to Senate and President. But of all the campaigns that were the most organized and just had the most enthusiasm was the 2008 campaign. To just go down there and just have a different list every day. If you're going in at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, well, then you're going to call senior citizens because that's the only group that's going to be home. Whereas if you come in at 7 p.m. on a Thursday, it's going to be a totally different group. And just to see the cross mix there, that you had senior citizens and you had young people, just so many people from IUP, and to just be there on election night outside City Hall where people are voting and just the lines around the block and people bringing pizza just to the people waiting in line. It was just such a great experience. That when I had this chance to come back in 2012, after having done it as volunteers and having not been able to vote for most of that time, to now be able to come back and take some responsibility and get some organizing skills, to know how people are doing it and what people are doing it for. I love Barack Obama. I read Dreams from My Father, which was his first book, which he wrote before he was ever running for office, and it was just great to see a real person there, see someone who really critical and really just coming at a lot of issues of race and poverty and inequality in the country in a really genuine way. And now I think the political situation has gotten a lot of very partisan. It's gotten very, very divided. It's gotten to the point where, oftentimes when I see the president speaking, I just try to change the channel because I don't like hearing what the sound bites. I don't like hearing what Boehner or anyone has to say. And so, as far as why I'm coming to it is to see if we can do politics a different way. And I think that really starts at the local level. To see if each of us can talk about it in a way that's not polarizing. That's not what you see on CNN or MSNBC and Fox with the talking heads battling at each other. But it's just talking with people, coming to people, and figuring out what does it really mean to do politics, to do government. It's about the issues that are important to people. It's about making change and being civil. It's about having those conversations. And so that's why I'm here. I think Eric also asked me to give a little update of just what the campaign is doing, and what it means. So what's the big context of what we're doing in all 50 states and how does it relate to Indiana? He was great with giving numbers, and that's what we are trying to do. And with each phone call we make, for each time you talk to a person, they become 4 to 7% more likely to vote and to vote, for the president. And with going door to door, it's even more likely. I think it's 1 in 3 of talking to someone and making them more likely to vote. So with just this personal contact is just so much more important than anything you hear on the news, than any sort of letter you read or thing you see on the internet. Just this personal contact and just talking to people. And I think that comes back to the message of civility. Is that person to person is the way to go. And that's why I'm here. And I'm excited to go out and to meet all of you more. I've met a lot of you, and I'd like to meet you more. And I'm excited to work with you over the next couple of weeks.
Steven, I'd like to say something.
Cool.
One of my biggest concerns this year is voter ID and getting these people rides to the DMV. It's only open 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And how do we get, some people actually will have to go to the Social Security office first and get a card. because they probably got it when they were 12 years old or something. And have you ever gone to the Social Security office? You sit for hours and hours and wait. And then you have to get somebody to take you to the DMV to get your ID. And so I've had some concerns about, are we going to do anything here in Indiana to try to alleviate some of that?
It's
One
gonna
quick
be.
comment. I believe you can get a replacement social security card online. I'm not sure.
But how many people have access to
Well, if they
online?
don't have access, we can always bring them here to the library.
It's easier than driving them.
It's easier than taking them to the social security office and waiting for hours.
Oh,
But I'm
okay,
pretty
that's
sure
good to
you
know.
can get one online.
I know that in general it is an issue. I saw an article in the DN Gazette the other day that 978,000 people
Yeah.
are voters
Yeah.
without ID. And it's something I would want to get more information on. I know there are definitely efforts going on about that. I know they got it so that if you go down to the DMV and sign a waiver, you don't even have to pay anything for an ID or anything. But they have to replace you with a photo ID. And so, yeah.
I thought Dave Reed was in charge.
Why
Why don't we just give everybody his phone number?
I think we should.
that's true.
And that's a good point, because Dave Reed did say, you know, if anyone's having trouble getting
Yeah, he
ID,
told me that.
I give him a ride or go to his office, so, and that's why he's here to support his constituency, so definitely, if you're having trouble, contact Dave Reed, that's a great suggestion.
And to add to that,
That would be very helpful.
give them his phone number, and then you call Dave Reed later and check out.
Yeah.
Make sure.
But that is a
You
really
know,
good issue.
you have to verify.
Thanks for bringing that up, and I want to get more information about it. I want to have something simple we can give to people so everybody knows how they can get an ID.
I would like to say something on that point. I saw the very nice pamphlets and write-ups on voter ID, which is my main area of interest. I'm a retired English teacher, and this may not be politically correct to say, but some of the students that go through the schools on special ed programs that have challenges, or they can't read these pamphlets and things. And if you hand it to somebody, they have to be helped through it. And we have to be very diplomatic about asking, would you like me to read this for you? You can't just think that handing someone a beautifully designed pamphlet is going to do it. If you can't read it, it's too overwhelming, and then they don't take any step forward. So a lot of these people have to be held by the hand if you want to help them become voters. That's just my comment. When you're smart and you're young and you're computer savvy, you don't realize that there are a lot of people out there that aren't smart and young and computer savvy. Right.
I was just going to say, I had that experience, I think I chatted with you about. I had that very experience on Tuesday, we were at voter registration on Pine Township, and there was a gentleman, and I think you're right, there's a diplomatic way to see folks do that, but it's relatively common, it's pretty not that hard to do. And a question I have, I guess, for Eric, on the voter registration form, is it requires assistance box?
Yes.
Is that the box that we want to check then, if that's the community?
Right, it requires assistance box. I believe that is only if you write on the form yourself. I think that's just to signify if the voter, if you've filled in boxes for themselves. But if you explain to the voter on how to do it, you don't need to fill that out. But if you had to write for them because they were unable to fill that out, then you have to check that and then just sign that you've assisted you in the form. But I don't think it has anything to do with needing assistance on election day.
Can people get assistance on election day if they're not a reader? Can somebody come and read the ballot?
Yes, you are allowed to take somebody to the poll. Yes.
And is there a way to get money if they can't buy this photo ID? Did you say there's a way?
Yeah, there is to get a free photo ID, and if you go
that's
to
through
the
the DMV?
To the DMV, yep, I think there's a form you can sign.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, and then you basically have an oath, and then you say that, I don't have the means to get an ID, and you sign something to get it that way.
Great.
Otherwise, it's $14.
Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Eric.
Cool. Yeah.
I think that we should be mentioning the fact that the majority leader in the House has expressed the view that we're going to elect a whole bunch of Republicans this year because of that voter ID law. We should let people know exactly what is behind
Right.
the voter ID.
Right, and you know, in the closed war meeting, the Republicans even admitted the fact that, you know, there was a quote from the, I think it was the House Republican leader in Pennsylvania that said, you know, this is going to deliver Pennsylvania for Mitt Romney, the voter ID law. So
Some politics behind it, videos on it.
There's some.
Yeah.
We need to post it.
Right.
Turzai is saying that he says it himself. We just need to post that out there so people see.
right.
It's like publicly, it's on YouTube, and you can get it.
Cool.
And I read an article that said that the ACLU was filing a suit.
Yeah.
There are a couple of lawsuits in progress.
Yeah, there was one of the lawyers there said, you know, he was on KDKA earlier
So
this week,
it would be good to get behind those.
talking about the different lawsuits that they were bringing forward and hoping to actually bring some sort of an injunction before Election Day, so that it would not be in effect for Election Day.
Right.
I just wanted to say one sort of a little bit of a rallying cry around this. I think letting folks know that this, you know, especially coming from OFA, that this is a political move, this voter ID thing, and that's a real rallying cry. And in Georgia, I was reading more about the voter ID thing in Georgia. They instituted a law just before 2008, and the state did a lot more to sort of educate folks to have IDs, and there are a lot of sort of nonprofits and community groups that took it as a rallying cry. We need to let our folks know, everybody know, and it ended up increasing voter registration, increasing turnout, had higher turnout. We also had Obama for the first time in 2008, so there's that bump. But you know, I think of it as like this is kind of a rallying cry. This is the attempt, so we need to be out there even more, registering folks to overcome what appears to try to do this thing. I think it's not just us. I think the state needs to be doing more, and I'm hearing more that they are going to be doing some education outreach. But I think it's a rallying cry.
Right. Great. Let's see, as we continue the discussion here, one thing I want to do is, we have an Obama hat that Wilford was nice enough to bring back from Washington, D.C. So we sort of wanted to pass the hat, and so if you have some, some dollars, what we'll do is this becomes a donation to the Indiana Free Library. So I donated $30 to have the room for 2 hours, and then it's an additional like $5 for every half hour. So we wanted to keep the room for the rest of the few hours as we do some data entry and phone, and as people go out and hit the doors, you come back to this location, and we'll be entering all the data from today for contact. So we'll pass this around, and again, the donations goes to the library for this space. If there's money left over, we'll plow it into postage, because what we're doing after we talk to people on the phone, sometimes we'll send them something in the mail if they request more information about voter ID or the voter IDs, but the healthcare law, for example, we'll send something in the mail. So we'll find those stamps. So I'll pass this along as we continue our discussion here. Yeah.
This sounds off the mark of off the point. But I was wondering how many of you have heard that Grover Norquist stood before his group. This was reported, on television and both on the internet, and said, if you know who he is, the guy that made them all sign, got them all to sign the pledges, never to raise taxes. He said, we don't, speaking for the Republicans, we don't care who the candidate is. We only need someone with enough digits to sign a pen, and we'll tell them what to do. And I think that is a talking point when you're talking to people about why they like Romney.
Right.
You can trust them any way you want.
Sure. Very good. Cool. So all really good points. I also want to mention that Ron Fairman sends his regards. He was planning to be here today. He's the chair of the county Democratic committee, and he had to go to a funeral today. Some of you might actually know Joe Bianco. Tom Bianco's father passed away, and so he was today. So we'll have to go to that. Also, I wanted to thank Joellen Bowman. Joellen's here, and many of you know Joellen. She's running for Pennsylvania House against Jeff Pyle. So she brought her refreshments today. So round of applause. Joellen will be here shortly after the meeting too. So if you want to get involved with her campaign, see Joellen or see G. Smith, who's helping with her.
Put in.
So happy to have them. So
Good girl.
Cool. So what we're going to do now is,
Put that on.
is break off into a couple breakout sessions, and we're going to do training. I will lead this training on
Bless you.
campus, and then Wilford, we're back there. I did change location. So Wilford will lead our phone bank. So it's really exciting what we do when we go door to door, and we're going to try to get as many people on the doors as we can. Realizing that we have some cold water for those that are going out. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody. We have some cold water for those that are going out. And what's the power of the door-to-door conversation is there are several things. One, it's the most effective way to get the information out and to reduce somebody's mind is having those face-to-face conversations. Secondly, the list that we're using are targeted. So they're targeted to the people that are likely to be on the fence. And they're actually pretty good lists in this regard. When we go door to door, we are having to sign. And I don't know if we have enough today, but you know, when we have them. So we have to sign a commit to vote card. And what this is, they write why they're supporting the president. They sign it. They put their personal information. We collect their information, so we add them to our list of volunteer list. They can choose to sign up for text message. And this actually serves as a list. And the campaign's collecting. Our goal is to collect 70,000 of these cards across the Commonwealth. And a week or so, within the week of election day, they get mailed out to all the voters to sign them as a promise to vote. So it's really a nice tool that we're using when we're on the doors. We also have some nice literature that explain this is the record on how for example, Mitt Romney, when he was governor of Massachusetts. Massachusetts was, I think, 47 out of 50 job creation in the state. The state of Massachusetts. His record is really dismal, and it shows the graph how we were losing jobs when Obama took office, and then right after the stimulus package passed, we started gaining again. So there's a nice visual in the literature that we draw. And if anyone's home, we give it to them. Thank you. If anyone's home, we give it to them, and then if they're not home, we move it on their doorstep. So this is a pretty effective piece of literature that we have. And then when we're talking to voters, either on the door or on the phone, we collect what issues matter to them. If they are able to give it to us, if they're willing to give it to us, we collect their email address. Our data entry folks will enter that data into the system. And the system is supposed to send them an automatic email to say, hey, thanks for talking to so-and-so today in Indiana County. Here's we saw that you were interested in healthcare and energy, for example. And here's some links to the president's record on those. So it's a really pretty sophisticated program. And this election is going to be really close, of course. Pennsylvania is one of the biggest swing states. Again, it all comes down to Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania. Whoever wins 2 to 3 probably is going to take the White House. And it's going to be a close election. It's not going to be like it was in 2008. It's going to be more like 2004, where if we had 180,000 more votes in Ohio, we would have won. Or the year 2000, where if we would have had 537 more votes in Florida, we would have won. So, and you never know where there's 1,500 votes that are going to come from that are going to make a difference. And we can, with all of your help, we can get that amount out of Indiana County. So at this point, we'll break out sessions. Even if you're not, we love if everybody were to help out today. We have our goal of hitting 500 voter contacts just today, and we've made 4,500 already this year here in Indiana County attempted voter contacts. And so our goal is to get 500 today, and we'll be here. We have a couple, we'll fit the room in a few hours. Those that will go out will hit target doors right around Indiana Borough, and then come back and return the packets when you're done. And that's that. So, Wilford, do you think I might have forgotten?
Stand up and louder.
Okay. Okay. That's a good morning for me. Champagne is pretty sophisticated in terms of looking at what it needs. And I think Eric and Jamon did a good job of explaining that. I just want to kind of follow up a little bit on that. If you look at Indiana County, you might know this better than I do. How many voters do we have in Indiana County?
It's about 25,000 Democrats and 25,000 Republicans.
Okay. That's our universal wording. Okay, and this is basically, you know, this is Republican county. That's not to say we can't do some important work here. But just think if we picked up, say, 200 to 500 votes out of Indiana County that we would normally get. That's a big, big deal.